Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Swamp Thing as well as the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I had to say about this week's episode of Swamp Thing, you can skip to what I had to say about this week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Swamp Thing. A lot of interesting things. Picking up right where last week's episode left off, we have the whole Alec and Abby situation, which is kind of neat. It's like, because Alec's being like, oh, I don't understand what's going on either, kind of making the same assumptions I did last episode, like, yeah, it must be like some hallucinogenic or something like that, which, he's obviously kind of enjoying because it's like, hey, for the first time, I get to still look like me. I do like that they kind of do this camera thing where it's like, you kind of get a faraway shot, he still looks like Swamp Thing, but obviously then it kind of cuts back and it's like, he looks like Alec. It's like showing you that no matter what the circumstances may look like, he's still Swamp Thing. It's not like he got cured or, turned into a human. So I just thought that was kind of a neat little, just like a little 2-second thing they kind of did, but nevertheless, it's also interesting kind of showcasing, more and more, Alec's connection to the green, that basically like, oh, he's trying to get something for Abby because she might be hungry, and then plants, like a tree just kind of grows into the lab and actually starts producing some fruit. Like, what was it, like a mango and a plum, and she's like, a plum, and it's like, she eats it, and it's like, oh, it's super delicious. I'm like, that's actually super dope. Just kind of like the little things like that, just showing you his connection to the green, to the point he can even hear the grass, he can hear plants waking up and stuff like that. She's like, well, he's like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. And he talks about this darkness, this rod, and she wants to see it firsthand, when she's like, no, you need to stay away from that place, but it's dangerous. And it's actually kind of interesting because obviously it's almost like night and day, which literally how that kind of plays a role in the episode is kind of interesting, because at other points it seems like it's light outside, but in other places it looks dark, but it depends on where you are. I guess at the place where the green is at its strongest, it looks bright outside, even though at other points in the episode you cut to it, it's kind of nighttime in the swamp. So I just thought that was kind of aesthetically an interesting thing. But it's like, Abby's like, I've literally lived in, Murray a long part of my life, and I never saw it look as lush as it is here. But it's like, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of everything, tapping into this green and seeing the beauty that this world has. But obviously there's a lot of depth with it too, because there's the rot, because there's obviously a natural balance. It's something Xanadu had talked about before. There's a balance, and the balance has kind of got knocked off, and now that darkness is eating away. There are certain spots where the darkness is etching out the green, and we see part of the woods, part of the swamp that's just nothing but decay. It's like it's going to do this to all life, not just the forest and not just the swamp and everything. And Abby goes in there, and still reluctant to go in there, and you see just what this darkness is capable of, and it's spreading rapidly. Even at one point you get a top shot of the darkness just sweeping across the swamp. It's like, that's scary. What's interesting is obviously Abby gets attacked by the rot, because I guess just where he taps into the green to kind of be Swamp Thing, the darkness kind of taps into the rot, the decayed wood and stuff like that. So a tendril comes up and attacks her. Luckily they get out of there in time, but the infection starts spreading. Essentially, the way Abby kind of describes it, it was basically almost like a specific flesh-eating bacteria. It's what the rot was replicating. And so Alec trying to grow this specific plant that would try and help her situation, but the green and the rot are at war inside of her body. So Alec taps into this powers a Swamp Thing, even morphing into Swamp Thing to really, I think it's kind of a thing of the spores that kind of created the hallucinogen had to kind of go away, because he had to focus on tapping into his powers as Swamp Thing to save her, and he starts activating stuff within her to fight back the rot. And when it's all said and done, though, it kind of puts things in perspective for Alec, because now it's Abby was so close to being hurt and everything, and she could have died. And for him, it's because, it was nice, because he's seeing that the spores are starting to wear off. And the fact of the matter is that, for one day, it was nice to just be able to be himself again after so long being there was a part of him that probably felt like he never would be able to be him again. But it's oh, I get to be me. But now it's the spores are wearing off. And it's yeah, me looking like myself, me feeling like myself, that's just an illusion, It's just this is always just some hallucinogenic, kind of making it seem like I'm me, I'm still that thing, But Abby hasn't given up, because for her it's we still have this time, let's kind of make the most of all we have is right now. they kiss, but it still doesn't. I think that probably in itself probably pushes him even more. Be like, no, I got to keep Abby away from this. It's like, this is who I am. Who I am as Alec. I have to let that go because maybe there's a grander reason. Like, I'm a part of something bigger. I was chosen to be a warrior to kind of fight back this darkness. This is my place. But you, Abby, you have a life. You have the life to go and live, and he doesn't want her potentially losing it, being connected to all of this. So no matter how much it hurts him, he kind of pushes her away, especially because he knows pushing her away means pushing away any opportunity to be himself again, because he just thinks, maybe I have to let Alec Holland die and embrace being this thing, because Alec Holland couldn't save you, but it took the thing I've become to save you, so, which obviously it's hard on Abby because she sees that he's given up hope and she hasn't given up hope. She feels the need. She feels like she wants to help him, that she needs to help him. So she's deciding to go back to the CDC to kind of examine things. So I'm sure they're going to be like, oh, why are you back in Murray? It's like, obviously everything's kind of cleared up, but it's like, no, it hasn't. Like, there's got to be a lot more to this, but I'm curious to see what she really does. I mean, one person she could turn to with help with all this, to be fair, she needs a lab, which obviously, like, Woodrow kind of gets one this episode, but we'll kind of dive into that later. So, but obviously he probably doesn't want to turn to him for help because he's connected to Avery and she doesn't have anything associated to do with Avery. So there's that side of things. Then there's like the whole Lucilia coming to visit Avery. I thought that was so interesting. Her being like, you got my son wrapped up in this shit. The fact of the matter is this and that, kind of like the back and forth between him. For her, it's like, I stood by for so long, and he's like, oh, you complaining about it now? You weren't complaining when I was lying in your pocket before. So now it's a situation, and she breaks the news. Alec is still alive. What? Yep. Matt saw him. He's a little deformed or whatever. And part of me's like, okay, so I wonder to how much of an extent did Matt say. He probably didn't go full extent, just like, oh, he's a little deformed. Probably won't go full blown of what he saw because his mom would just think he's crazy. So, which is interesting because he has a conversation with Liz, like they kind of acknowledge, like, oh, oh yeah, I know too, that type of situation. Which the whole thing's kind of got Matt stressed because like he knows what he did to Alec, and now in the middle with this whole Avery situation with his mom, it's just a whole complicated thing, and it's kind of wearing on him, and he's realizing that maybe Abby was right about the darkness because just the way everything's happening, the way people are acting, there's definitely something more here. There's something evil here. So Lucilia is like, okay, no trying to get other people to do your dirty work. You and me, Avery, we're going to go out to that swamp, find Alec, and kill him. I was like, wow. And when, they show up there and Lucilia gives him the shotgun and everything, I'm like, do you really want to give him that shotgun? I was like, the moment your back is turned, he's going to shoot you. I was like, oh, come on, because because especially the whole conversation about Alec and everything about like, oh, the reason why he killed Alec because Alec didn't just stick to his job. He didn't just do what I asked him to do. He tried to overstep, and Avery doesn't like people overstepping in his business. And even Lucilia is like, yeah, if only he had known about all the dumping and all the dynamite you've blown up to, create new channels in the swamp. The fact of the matter is, getting all this money you've been lining your pockets with just so you can pay off other people so they know that, so they won't treat you like the nothing they always kind of saw you as. So that was interesting to see that kind of side of things. But then you have, they go into woods and it's like, okay. She's like, okay, did you see that? I'm like, wait, Alex should be around here. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then he puts the gun up to her. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, oh crap. He's like, oh, you think I'm an idiot? You came out here to kill me and dump my body. She's like, no, this is about Alec. I was like, he's alive. I was like, oh man, I was like, oh, that's such a shame. She is telling you the truth about Alec being alive, but her being like, the fact of the matter is, like, I'm the only one that knows you. I'm the only one that sees you, which is interesting because I guess to an argument, to a certain extent, you can make the parallels between this conversation and the same thing between Abby and Alec. But I was like, oh man, poor bastard. But lo and behold, Matt shows up and I'm like, oh, so they were BSing you. It wasn't about killing Alec, because it's like, no, like killing him ain't gonna solve anything because, because for one, obviously Matt probably brought up the fact that he doesn't know that they were associated, so they don't have to worry about that. Avery's the one they need to get rid of, so that was interesting. Then the info gets dropped of like, oh yeah, I'm your dad. And Matt's like, wait, what? Apparently his mom's known for a while, but she lied to both Avery and to Matt. But Avery's like, I have the resources. I've paid off some doctors, tested some samples. I knew Matt was mine the moment I saw him. So there's that. Now you're potentially in a situation where you're about to kill your dad. He stabs you. Lucilia shoots him in the leg and shoots him in the shoulder. I'm like, he's not dead. The moment he fell in the water, I was like, I see it all playing out. He's going to get possessed by the rod, which the ending doesn't necessarily show that he does, but I feel like he's the perfect host for the rod. Like, I mean, to be fair, that darkness kind of seeps into everyone, but I feel like if there's a lot of darkness in you already, you're just going to look that much more appetizing. I mean, to be fair, it's not just him. There's a lot of darkness flowing around with everyone kind of willing, kind of showing you that, like, there's no one innocent in all of this, whether it be Avery, Lucilia, Matt, Maria. Like, there's a lot of darkness flowing around all four of them, but we'll kind of get to that soon enough. But I was because when it's all said and done, I was wondering why. I was like, oh, you're going to Maria's? Oh, that's interesting. I was like, and then Maria's like, this wasn't what's supposed to go in plan. I was like, you were in on it, because I knew something was up with Maria the moment she's acting all happy and everything in this episode, and then he's like, oh, this is about the pills, but the moment he walks away, her expression changed. I'm like, you know what's up, don't you? You're not actually taking the medication, are you? Like, or are you just acting like that because you're suspicious of Lucilia and Avery? But it's like, no, because I brought it up before, like 2 episodes ago, when Maria is looking at Jason and her husband and Avery talking. That's when it clicked in her mind of like, oh, everything's been about, you know, you using me. She even talks about it later on. That's why she went through with this. Like, yeah, she hated having to kill her husband, but she was tired of all the lying and manipulation. Once again, using Susie as a means to manipulate her to kind of help her fund Woodrow's stuff, you know. So that's where it kind of stems from, along with other stuff, but also showing you, you know, Maria isn't above kind of going about things the way Avery would. That's a very Avery move. So kind of showing you maybe the darkness that Tira Murray seeped into her the moment the whole Shauna thing happened. Like, maybe there was a little bit of darkness that crept into her. Maybe it was always there. Maybe it just so happens that the darkness, the rot, is reacting to the darkness of them and is kind of drawing them closer. I mean, closer to them in Murray. I don't know. But kind of breaking it down, like the whole like meeting with what's the dude's name? Nathan Elroy. Interesting enough, he's played by the actor that actor, I've seen him in so many things. Interesting enough, and it's kind of spoilers for this week's episode of the 100, but he played Pike in the 100. Granted, that was like seasons ago, but it kind of becomes relevant because he recently popped up in the most recent episode. Like I said, it's kind of a spoiler, but nevertheless. So there's that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And like, she brings up this whole point about something he's associated with called like what, Mod 4. And it's like, oh, how do you know about that? For her, it's like, oh, I have connections and stuff like that. Essentially, the whole thing is her maneuvering everything to be that she can take over everything related to Avery. It's like, once he's out of the picture, she signs all the papers, gets Jason to kind of point everything out. I'm like, okay, obviously Jason's none the wiser about what's going on, but she is. And it's like, you and me, Lucilia, our business is done. I don't ever want to see you again. Because I was wondering, I was like, it is kind of interesting. I was like, you take her to Matt. You take Matt to, I mean, I get it. You don't want to take him to a hospital because too many questions, even if he is a cop, like, reports have to be filed, you have to lie to so many people. But I'm like, why Maria's place specific? Oh, because she's in on it. And I was like, that's interesting. Which obviously we kind of circling back to Jason and everything. Like, I was wondering before, because I kept saying like, oh, it has to be about his wife. It has to be about his wife. But other stuff kind of made it seem like, oh, maybe it's not about your wife. Maybe it's about just the glitz and glamour of just kind of like the scientific discovery. It's like, well, that plays a role, sure, but it is mainly about his wife. It is about curing her Alzheimer's, which we do see like at the end of the episode, because she's like, oh, who was that man? Nathan. Who was his wife? Even though that's not his wife, but he was like, Maria. It's like, because her Alzheimer's is, you know, kicking in. And so it's like his desperate, you know, he's willing to go as far as he needs to save, you know, his wife. It's interesting because even Maria confronts him. It's like, oh yeah, you're dealing with me because Avery's away for right now. I guess she was kind of laying the groundwork for later on, because it's like, oh, going forward, you're going to be interacting with me and not Avery. So there's that side of things. But I guess it's the whole thing of like, you know, it's like the whole conversation about like, oh yeah, Daniel woke up and everything. Oh, good for him. But I also know about the whole him to literally be strapped down as the ambulance took him away because he was writhing in so much pain. So she knows what he's done. Like, all your results are saying like, oh, it was a unanimous success. It's like, no, she knows there's BS to that, but she's like, given enough time and money, will you be able to get it to where you need it to be, where you're promising it to be? And he's like, yeah, but I don't think he believes that 100%, because I think he's working, because now it's like, it's putting him in a time crunch of like, okay, within a certain amount of time, like, we're getting all this stuff kind of set up ahead of time before everything's really okay, because Avery wanted to push things, because he, you know, because even Nathan has said it, like, your husband pushed in a lot of money and favors to make this happen, and he's not even here. So that's why it was kind of a once and a lifetime chance for Avery to make his move in this regard. So, but Maria probably, I don't know. I think, well, because Maria doesn't want to get screwed over while we're making all these dealings and things don't work out, and then it kind of blows back on her. She doesn't want that, obviously, but it's going to be interesting to see how Jason reacts to this. I think seeing his wife in the condition she's in is going to motivate him even more to push forward with this. I mean, there might be it's not going to be might be. There's definitely going to be ramifications for things kind of going down this way. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Like I said, Avery not being dead. Once again, is that just Avery? And he's just out for a vendetta, meaning Matt and Lucilia are going to be screwed. Granted, he might figure out that Maria was involved. Maybe he won't. We'll see about that. I mean, the moment he comes back and it's like, oh, I'm alive, and Maria's probably going to try and play the role, but then eventually probably tell Lucilia and Matt's like, you didn't finish the job. Might even try to finish the job herself. We'll see. But like I said, it also depends on whether he's back because he's been influenced by the rot or not. It didn't, like for that quick little bit of it didn't necessarily seem like he was different, but maybe there was something I missed, like a little detail of like his veins kind of popping or something like that. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see. I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. And now moving on to this week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, there's everything on, the Zephyr and everything about, like, okay, you have Sarge and Pax and Jocko trying to take over the ship, which they kind of successfully do. I do like the fact that it's like, yeah, we kind of got to prepare ahead of time, so they got the shield ready to go against Yo-Yo if they need to. Granted, they don't really understand and know how her power works, so they didn't really prepare properly. But essentially, Sarge ends up overtaking the ship, threatening to kill people. Obviously, because it's like, okay, once the truck hits the tower, it goes boom, like, we're going to take this ship and we're going to, hey, I saved your planet, so we're going to take this ship and we be on our merry way, essentially. It's a whole conversation of, like, because for Sarge, it's like the whole thing of, like, leaving people behind because, like, we can't let anyone slow us down. Jocko's kind of being like, well, the fact of the matter is Snow isn't just anyone, because later on, when things don't work out, which I'll get to that side of things later in a bit, but it's like Sarge is all about cutting ties. It's like, yeah, who cares if they're alive down there? Snow, it's like she already knew the consequence. But Jocko's like, she isn't just anyone. She's been with us for years. And it's like, yeah, and we've been going at this S.H.I.E.L.D. thing for even longer than we've known her. So it's like, we're not going to slow down. She already knew that. Yo-Yo used Pax as a way to get to them, kind of keep knocking him against the shield. And Jocko, because he cares about the team, he goes and takes the shield down. But, Sarge kind of not wanting him to be used that way ends up killing him. I mean, to be fair, Sarge kind of already wanted to kill him anyway just because he runs his mouth too much. But it's also just because it's like, oh, we can't have him being used like that. But to be fair, they don't know about her ability. So the fact is, in that moment the shield was down, she's used her powers, gave the key to the cuffs to Mac. Because you hear the swoosh, like, from her using her power. So I thought that was kind of pretty neatly done. But you see Jocko looking like, what the hell, like, he wasn't even dead. It was just, so he wouldn't be used as leverage, and they put the shield back up, but it's already too late. And Jocko gets sent on his way to go after Yo-Yo, and Yo-Yo actually confronts him, because it's like, the fact of the matter is, you are, the baker, you are the runt of your family. Is this really how you want to go about things? Because it's like, you're going along with Sarge and the way he handles things. Like, obviously, this whole murder thing doesn't sit right. We're just like, well, Sarge wasn't always like that. It's just obviously, like, he's grown jaded and just filled with hate because of this whole thing with S.H.I.E.L.D. But it's like, this isn't about Sarge's way of handling things. This is about you, what you wanted. It's like, would your family be okay with you? What would they want you to do from this situation? And it's like, take down the woman that took them away from me. And it's like, now that would be an impressive trick, Because obviously he talked about what she can do being impressive, of like how she took his weapon and also handcuffed him like that. So it's kind of neat to see because it's kind of neat what they set up with that too, because Yo-Yo kind of built this relationship with Jocko when she kind of got to learn more about him. He's actually the only one in the group you've really gotten to know. I mean, Sarge is kind of in the, not 100% sure about his own past. So we'll leave things there and kind of shift over to the group in the truck and everything. It's like supposed to be all up to Deke to deactivate the bomb, but for him it's like he can't, because it turns out the device is kind of like essentially an atom bomb. And even like at first, Snowflake is being like, no, it's like, oh yeah, like she's kind of psyching herself up to be like, oh, I'm gonna be a beautiful soul that gets scattered around, like how she's doing her whole butterfly thing. But even she's panicking, even later on kind of freaking out, which is like, oh, she seems like she was all in tune with the whole like death thing. But I guess in this moment, it terrified her, because she knows like how painful this is going to be. I guess it's a thing of like, oh, I'm not going to turn into a butterfly or anything like that. I guess it's like when it's your own mortality facing you, it's very different from other people becoming butterflies, But you have Deke there trying to help out and everything. I love what Daisy did. Daisy is like the major MVP of the episode. Always is. She's always top notch. And it's so cool because it's like, okay, before the truck crashes, she uses her power, I guess, to kind of basically keep the bomb in a sort of blocked off stasis so that none of the vibrations from the ship hitting set it off. It's keeping it in this where none of the shockwaves kind of affect it. So I thought that was pretty neat. And she kind of just like dropped, she's like, ooh, kind of exhausted afterwards. But that was pretty awesome. And I love even Deke kind of saying we did it, even though literally Daisy did all the heavy lifting in that instance. But I also love Daisy being like, I don't know which one is worse, because she sees Deke and Snow together and everything. And then you have May being like, she's a serial killer, so I'd kind of go with the fact is that she. But then again, the argument could be like, well, the fact is Deke's still with her, despite her being a serial killer. That speaks volumes. But I also love when they're dealing with the bats and the strike, and they're gathered around, and one goes through the window, and Deke's screaming and then May stops it with a knife right in front of him, and he's like, and she's like, yeah, that finally shut you up. But Daisy doing her badass thing of like opening the doors and the striker coming in. It's like a funnel. And Daisy does a thing. They're all coming in. And then like each one of them's kind of, being basically quaked to pieces as they come closer. And it's like Daisy looking all badass, dude. It's like, that's so cool, dude. I love that. I mean, once again, that's a conversation I had before of like, okay, you got Daisy and Yo-Yo, so it's like, people in the team with powers. I guess like you got powerhouses like that. That's kind of all you need. Once again, it's just so interesting to me because I feel like, it's like the main team doesn't have that many Inhumans. I don't even know if S.H.I.E.L.D. has that many Inhumans anymore. Remember, there were Inhumans tied to the S.H.I.E.L.D. team because there was that squad that Daisy was a part of with Yo-Yo, Joey, and Lincoln, if I remember correctly. I feel like there was someone else, but maybe I'm misremembering, but nevertheless. So I just think that's fascinating all on its own, but it's like, so there's that. Yo-Yo was able to convince Jocko to kind of, work with them. That was after Mac ended up kicking Sarge's ass. He kept telling her to back down. Because I love it, because obviously the conversation with S.H.I.E.L.D. got underneath his skin. She brought up some interesting things. One, the whole fact is that Sarge, it's like, basically saying like, oh yeah, like, the skin you're in or something. She made reference to that. So I'm like, the only reason why he looks like Coulson is because he's wearing a skin, but why does that skin look exactly like Coulson? That's a whole other thing. But I don't think that isn't how he originally looks. He might not actually have a form of his own. He might just borrow skin. That might be something similar to S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll get to that in a second, soon enough. But I think that's what that's supposed to potentially represent. And the fact of the matter is, it's like, I didn't steal your memories. You never had any to begin with. So it's like, whatever he is, he wasn't born normally. He's not some like, I was born, I grew up, I had a life and stuff like that. It seems like maybe it's a situation that everything that is him is made up. Maybe he's adopting a lot of stuff from Coulson and thinking like, he's been alive a long time, but maybe he's in his head. I don't know, because like obviously he's been with the group for a while, so like that's the thing. Like maybe at some point in time, like there was someone saw Coulson and like, this would be a good enough disguise. They took him and kind of made this dude look like Sarge looked like Coulson. I don't know. She even said the thing of like, you remember my name, come at me and basically I'll make you remember yours. So once again, kind of speaking in riddles, but we don't know. But once again, Mac proceeds to kick Sarge's ass and Jocko decides to work with them. So they sneak aboard the ship because there's everything with Fitz and Simmons, which I think is so interesting because like S.H.I.E.L.D. was like, I'm not going to turn you into a mindless beast like them. They're kind of idiots or whatever. But you two, you're super intelligent. It's like, do you know how hard it is to come across, smart beings? And, lucky for Fitz and Simmons, they are the geniuses that they are. So that's why she's taking an interest in them, because it's like, they're fascinating to her because it's like, so much you can teach me about everything, and plus just have intellectual conversations with you guys. So there's that. Obviously, she got upset because she thought Fitz and Simmons were lying to her when they're like, you recognize that voice. And it's like, well, he sounds like someone we know, but that person is dead. And she's like, you're making it up. It's like, no, they were 100% telling the truth. It might not have sounded sincere from Fitz because Fitz was unsure because it's a circumstance he had to learn about secondhand. So obviously, but luckily, Davis, Jocko, Yo-Yo, and Mac make their way onto the ship, rescuing Fitz and Simmons. Once again, this whole complicated thing of like, especially for VIDS, like I said, it's like, wait, Coulson, wait, what? I thought Coulson, like I said, it's that whole thing of having to process that. But then when it's all said and done, they were luckily able to rescue everybody. I love it. It's like Yo-Yo and Mac end up rescuing Fitz and Simon, and it's like, hey! I also love that they were hiding, and Fitz was just kind of like, you smell nice, and you see kind of a smile on Simmons' face, like, oh, like even under this life and death situation, it's like, you're still adorable. I love, like, they're such a good couple. I love it. But also, what I love is, it's like, oh, Mac is like Turbo and kind of hugs him super tight. It's like, oh, he's like, right. And it's like they're reunited in that regard. Jocko wants to take down, S.H.I.E.L.D. while they have the chance. Him and Davis go up there, and it's like, well, she's gone now. It's like, how she disappeared that fast? I'll get to that in a second later on. But then there's the whole circumstance of like, yeah, they get off this ship. I love it because Jocko's like, I got an idea. Well, I love also like Jocko, like Mac is like, okay, we're not going to do anything until we know the status of the crew. They turn a corner, there's a dude, Jocko shoots, and Mac is like, what did I just tell you? Did you get stuff? He's like, actually, good call. But they get off the ship by using that teleportation stuff that they use, and I love Simmons being like, I like you, and he's like, it's understandable, I'm a likable guy, and then they get on the truck, and it's like everyone's getting reunited. It's like, hey, and you have Deke still in the scene, but like, yeah, he runs up to Fitz, and Fitz is like, who the hell is this dude hugging me? I love the awkwardness of it. But then Jocko sacrificing himself, it's like, because he's like, I'm not even doing this for Sarge, I'm doing this for me. And Snow is like, don't do it, Jocko. And he's like, don't worry, I'm going to be a butterfly. And it's like, he sacrifices himself to blow up the ship. Now, the thing that I immediately go to with all of this situation, because I knew the moment Davis was staring there, I was like, that's a little weird. Because it didn't even seem like he had his gun up. It looked like he was just like standing there. I think in that instance, Jocko was climbing up the stairs. Davis went there. I believe S.H.I.E.L.D. possessed his body. Or maybe the real Davis is just dead in general. I don't know. I doubt it's dead in general. It's probably just a situation of she can like implant herself. Just like the Shrike can affect you, I think she can too. I mean, to be fair, they kind of come from her, so maybe she can do the same thing. I'm thinking the way S.H.I.E.L.D. looks, that's not actually how she naturally. Maybe it is. Maybe she just had that skin for so long so that Jocko, when Jocko sees her, it's like, oh, that. Or when, Sarge hears a voice, it's like, oh, that's because that's the form they saw her in. But maybe she's kind of like a giant Shrike on the inside so that, she can possess bodies. I believe she possesses Davis. The moment Davis comes back, he's a little different. He's kind of a little out of it. Even when Piper's there talking mad shit to him, like they don't have their usual back and forth because he's just so tired and stuff like that. I'm like, she's there. She wasn't on a ship when it exploded. Maybe like her original host was, or maybe that is how she looks naturally. Maybe that is all there is to her, but I kind of get the feeling like she just possesses people's body, but maybe she maintains that form. Either way, because like I said, it's just interesting because she just happens to disappear like that, and just Davis just happens to be there. Like I said, I don't remember him holding up his gun, which is kind of weird if he just happened to get there at the same time Jocko did. So, but nevertheless, so there's that, but obviously that's just me focusing on that. There's also kind of like, just talking about the good times, like everyone's reunited, having fun. Daisy's talking about a little bit of her experiences with Mac. She's like, yeah, I saw like a sea of lava or something in space, and it's like, I thought nothing could get weirder than that, and then lo and behold, I get back to Earth, and bam, things just happen to be weird. It's like, yeah, that's kind of our thing, it's kind of like all the crazy stuff we've been through for the past 5 years together, Obviously a little bit longer for Daisy because she's been a part of the team longer than Mac has, but still. And then, it's like, oh, kind of brief him eventually about it. And I also love it. It's like, oh, yeah, you're staring at Yo-Yo, and they're standing there for the past, 30 minutes. He's like, no, I haven't. May's kind of blaming herself because it's like, I should have killed Sarge when I had a chance, but there was that small part of her that's like, still looked at him and saw Coulson, even though she knew he wasn't Coulson. But still, like her heart kind of got the best of her, and it's like, but then it's like, it may have not worked with Sarge kind of seeing what was really there. It worked with Jocko. And it's like, how'd you get him to convince him to help fight with us? She was like, I didn't. I just reminded him what he was fighting for. So there's that. Then there's Deke he's getting all excited being around Fitz and Simmons, and he's just like happy being around Fitz again. He's like, oh, look at you, you look younger, or however. To be fair, this proves my multiverse theory and everything. And I love the whole thing of like, oh, you owe me $20. Oh, I honestly, it's like, I want to go to Scotland. Why? So I can learn about, you know, our family heritage and all that. And it's like, we can live in a castle. I can buy us a castle. And Fitz is laughing, haha. But Deacon's like, no, but seriously, I could buy us like any castle. And you have Fitz looking like, wait, is that real? It's like, yeah, he's super freaking rich, which is crazy to think about. But I love it. He's like, no, let me introduce you. He wants to introduce Snow and everything. And it's like, you know, it's like she's pissed about the whole Sarge situation, but it's like, I'm your family now. And it's like, oh, that's so cute. And then Daisy's like, yo, Dick, come here. It's like, shouldn't she be arrested? It's like, what for? It's like, you know, the whole serial killer thing. It's like, oh, like, is that really what this is about? She's like, what else would it be about? You know, that age-old story, boy has feelings for girl doesn't really confess them when she should, boy goes off, becomes a tech billionaire, and then, like, feelings change and stuff like that, and Daisy's like, no, it's nothing like that, she's a killer, guys, lock her up, and it's like, wait, what? It's like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, come on, don't do that. Yes, I know she did some terrible stuff, but come on, come on, her and Deke, they're so cute. Complicated relationship, you know, girl who kills people to get them to turn into butterflies, who's from a different world, and the guy that's from, you know, the future, but a different timeline future. Match made in heaven, essentially. I'm in love later on. You see him kind of pushing in a TV for her cell and everything, and it's like, oh, dude, I can't wait to see where this relationship develops, you know. So then you have like Mac and Yo-Yo. I love Mac. You know, he's this lovable giant, and he's so awkward and everything, trying to talk to Yo-Yo, and she's like, you know, like, he's like, no, like, I made a mistake. For him, it's like he broke up with her because he thought, like, if he could get her out of his mind, like, maybe he could focus more on being, you know, the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. and can do a better job that way. But it's like, did it help? And he's like, I don't know, because you're always on my mind, you know. It's like, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope that, you know, given enough time, like, maybe I could be in a position where I can, you know, work my way back to you forgiving me. And he's about to leave, and she closes the door, and it's like, we'll take things slow, and start making up. Like, yes, about time, dude. Come on, you two, oh, you're so good together. It's like, come on. So I thought it's just kind of like, oh, it's in the air, everyone's happy, everyone's having fun, it's so good. A lot of people getting, you know, reacquainted to the whole situation. Obviously Fitz being back, you know, Daisy being back home too, May staring at, you know, Coulson's badge and everything. And then you had the thing at the very end where May bursts into Coulson's cell, and he's like, you? He's like, fine, what do you want to talk about? Like, even though you're not the biggest talker. And then she proceeds to shoot him multiple times, which my mind immediately went to, that's not May. Which obviously everything kind of points to it being like, oh, May might have done it because she was already saying like they needed to kill Sarge. Obviously she was looking at Coulson's badge, but I think she either got possessed by S.H.I.E.L.D. She left, you know, maybe Davis's body and went inside of May's. It makes you also wonder, like, when she leaves a host, are they okay? Like, potentially if she left her body behind on the ship before it exploded, like, did that woman whose body she potentially could have been having, was that like, oh, like, does that woman wake up being like, oh, what's going on? Was she unconscious the entire time? Will it be a situation of, well, maybe the reason why Davis passed out was because in that moment she had secretly snuck out of him. Maybe it's like, it's just very taxing on the body for her to be there, or maybe for her to be in control. Like, basically you kind of have to go into like almost a comatose state, like one, like multiple consciousness can't be kind of aware at the same time. Maybe that's the kind of thing they were going for, but either way. Or maybe it's going to be a situation where it's like, apparently, like, if she's around, maybe she influences negative emotions. So if you're feeling stuff, she can make you feel that and kind of act upon those negative emotions. I'm leaning more towards the former, but, you know, leaving room open for the latter. So I'm very interested to see ultimately where this all ends up taking us next episode, because it's not going to be that easy getting rid of what is essentially the main antagonist, learning more about potentially, you know, Sarge, why he looks like Coulson, what his whole true history is about. Because my thought process is that him and S.H.I.E.L.D. are the same thing. You know, maybe they're just like two creatures at war with each other. Maybe, you know, I mean, because obviously Sarge is very old. Because it almost seemed like, I would assume like Jocko, Snow, and Pax don't age, but I mean, they do age. Like, I feel like they're like regular people. Well, obviously, Jocko is a little bit more, but I felt like the others are probably aged the same way. But it seems like Sarge doesn't. Maybe just because they are aliens. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out what that's all about. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about today. So, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.